In 2010, Infinity Ward founders Vince Zampella and Jason West were fired by Activision for allegedly sharing information with video game publishers and plotting to steal employees. The talented pair's termination would later result in Vince and Jason starting Respawn Entertainment, and a multi-year lawsuit was filed. I swear to God, the video game industry catches more cases than Harvey Weinstein, and often for similar reasons. Nevertheless, Respawn would go on to release their first game in April of 2014. Titanfall was an exclusively multiplayer shooter that prioritized advanced movement and mech combat. I got my copy back in the day like anybody else. I hopped in my car, I drove over to the In-N-Out parking lot, I met a man, traded him my copy of Ghosts, along with some crack, and I enjoyed the first game. But I didn't jump into it as much as I probably should have. I was planning on reviewing Titanfall 1 for the second, but the population for Titanfall 1 was low before the game was removed from online stores. Now all that's left is barren servers and god-level players. So I'm good. I'm just going to jump right to the second game, which is a superior product in my opinion anyway. Titanfall 2 is one of my favorite shooters of all time, and the last stint I had playing it, somebody was DDoSing the servers, which obviously killed the player base. And at that point, I had to begrudgingly put the game down, and I assumed it was dead, until a friend of mine sent me a screenshot of their Steam player base a year later.
You son of a bitch! I'm in!
What can I say? I was excited, and I'm excited to talk about it in this video today. So let's get into the story.
Of all the things I've seen on the battlefields of the frontier, the pilot is the true dominant force.
Unlike the first game, Titanfall 2 has a full single-player campaign. Players take the role of a militia rifleman named Jack Cooper. Jack is aspiring to become the militia's newest pilot. Pilots are extremely skilled super soldiers that operate and form mental links with these combat mechs referred to as Titans. The campaign starts off with the militia at war with a rival faction called the IMC. Cooper is training with his mentor Lastimosa to become a pilot when it comes to an abrupt stop. The IMC begin an attack and Cooper's mentor is killed. Cooper is forced to take the role of pilot for Lastimosa's Titan, BT-7274. And from there, Cooper and BT go through a trial by fire to stop the IMC and prove Cooper belongs in the pilot's seat. The story's final goal and villains take more of a backseat to Cooper and BT's journey, and honestly, I feel like this was a great choice. Cooper and BT bonding is interesting and funny a lot of the time. BT's primary objective may be to assist Cooper, but his secondary is to be fucking hilarious.
This type of weapon is advanced design and may give us a tactical advantage.
I think somebody's in love.
A human's concept of love requires admiration, attraction, devotion, and respect. Conclusion: I am 50% in love.
Unfortunately, I didn't have similar feelings for Cooper. This is because he's a bit bland as a main character. But I can say the game's writers managed to save this aspect by making his goal to become a pilot inherently compelling. He respects the role so much, and by the end, you respect Cooper for being so driven. Titanfall 2's story is a bit short at around 6 hours, but I wouldn't want it any other way. You can one-shot the whole experience on any difficulty, and by the end, I feel like most players will be satisfied. It's great to have a full campaign, and it adds to the game's value immensely, but it's not the main reason I play Titanfall 2. The main reason I boot up Titanfall 2 is for the gameplay.
Flight core activated. Flight core offline.
If you like advanced movement and shooters, you will love Titanfall 2. This is the best example I've ever seen of the mechanic. Wall running, sliding, and dodging around all are commonplace, and the level designers for the campaign take advantage of this. Players will see shooting galleries that encourage you to play on the move, and different abilities that can be found throughout the map will change up your playstyle. Abilities like an active camouflage to stealth take down your enemies. There is also Titan-killing weapons that you can use when you disembark. The shooting is paired perfectly and tuned for high-octane gunplay, but that's just referring to the pilot combat. You will also have a completely different shooting experience when you operate a Titan. Playing as a Titan is slower and more methodical than pilot combat. You have different loadouts that have unique abilities for each of them, and all the loadouts have their own benefits. But the biggest is the core associated with the loadout that you choose. The cores are basically super moves that can be activated after kicking copious amounts of ass. Things like locking on with a minigun or shooting a freaking laser out of your face.
Detecting hull damage.
Players have even more options because you don't have to operate your Titans manually for them to be useful. You can disembark and fight side by side as a pilot on foot. All of this amounts to shooting that feels so polished, and I wouldn't expect anything less from the guys who made Modern Warfare. You can also expect to see some boss fights, but unfortunately I felt they amounted to little more than fighting another Titan that has more health and maybe an additional ability. There are a couple of exceptions to this rule, but they are limited. With all that being said, I'd like to get into my favorite aspect of this game. Almost all the gameplay elements from the campaign can be applied to this game's amazing multiplayer, but the multiplayer manages to be even more chaotic. Things start blowing up, robots are clomping around. Here is an actual clip of how players prepare for the next round of Titanfall. Set up a loadout consisting of a wide variety of weapons and perks to fit your playstyle. Pick different perks for your pilot, Titan, and equip a special ability to assist you in-game. This can be something like amped weapon damage or mobile explosives called ticks. And if you find yourself low on compassion for your fellow man, you can always use one of the game's most hated mechanics, the Smart Pistol, a weapon that locks onto enemies even through the advanced movement. But I'd never do something like that. Keep track of your war crimes with a very detailed stat tracker, or join a network. It's essentially a mechanic that behaves like clans and other shooters. The customization doesn't end there. You can pick which faction you stand with, and depending on which one you choose will change the in-game narration along with how you enter the match. My favorite is the Ace faction, mainly because the leader is often too pissed drunk to even stand. Once you finish customizing, you can jump into one of the game's many game modes. That's what I would have said if I reviewed this game back in 2016 when Titanfall 2 dropped. The game boasts 10 competitive game modes along with a cooperative defense mode called Frontier Defense. Unfortunately, with the exception of Frontier Defense and Attrition, I had trouble getting game modes consistently. Through Memorial Day weekend, I tried to get other game modes going, but was only able to get 1v1 Coliseum going a few times, and the rest I was met with a server timeout message. I did manage to play amped hardpoint and pilot versus pilot, but I was only able to do that once and I wasn't capturing at the time, so I apologize I can't show that here. Luckily, Attrition still has a very consistent population, and I have no problem primarily talking about this mode because it's
my muse and my flame.
Attrition is a point-based mode that adds bots to fight along with players. Bots, players, and Titans all have a different number of points you earn from killing them. These points will be added to your team's overall score. The first team to a total of 650 points wins. That being said, the losing team still has an opportunity for a bonus. I say this because as the round is ending, the losing players can run to an airship for extraction. This is of course assuming the winning team doesn't blow it up first. It's a lot of fun, and the large customization available in-game leads to diversity in each player's setup. I want to point out how good the map design is for the multiplayer, and how the map designers did a great job crafting them. Respawn had to design maps that felt balanced for Titans and pilots, which I'm sure was a difficult task, but they nailed it. There's a perfect amount of open space and tight corridors that make every playstyle feel welcome. If you manage to get bored of Attrition, there is always Frontier Defense. Each game gives players points for defending an objective. It's required to defend this objective 5 waves. Once all the AI-controlled enemies are killed, players have a moment to buy abilities with the money they earned in the last round. These abilities range from an extra shield to defend the point, to a core that brings Titans to nuclear detonation. I'm happy to say the gameplay and multiplayer are superb. So what can we say about the presentation?
Combat, things never go as you expect. You must be ready to use any weapon you can find on the field. These are just a few of the weapons I've come across out there. Time to hit the range.
It may not feel like it, but Titanfall 2 came out 6 years ago. That being said, there isn't much indicating this because the game looks and sounds amazing. I wouldn't go as far to say that the character models and environments are photorealistic, but just a couple steps down from that. Lighting and scale are presented in the game so well that it brought me to a complete stop at some points to appreciate the skills on display. The animation department in particular must have been working overtime because they are amazing to watch. The sound design is executed perfectly. Guns have a futuristic but believable sound to them, and the music sets the tone well. When it comes to the voice acting, it's delivered well in most instances, but there are some times when the delivery from characters is a bit hollow. Respawn clearly wanted to sweat the smaller details when they crafted the world of Titanfall. Little things like the scope displaying my ammo via a shrinking circle, or the unique messages that are seen when ejecting from a doomed Titan show a lot of effort. Details like these, along with Titanfall's art design, helped Respawn make their game feel different during a time when advanced movement shooters were a dime a dozen. If you haven't guessed by now, I love this game, and I think any fan of shooters should give it a try. Other developers have tried their hand at advanced movement shooting, but no one has nailed it like Respawn Entertainment. They introduced innovative mechanics in Titanfall 1 and nearly perfected it in Titanfall 2. I would really like to see how they push innovation with Titanfall 3, but who knows if that's ever gonna— oh my god! Yeah, here's hoping. But until then, I'll see you out on the frontier, pilot.